in the stories.
Yeah.
The stories are very powerful. It's about people overcoming adversity. Change was imposed on these people, and you have no choice but to do something, right? And I mean, you could do nothing. Even that is a choice. You could be optimistic, and you can create opportunities from this change, or you can be negative and down, and we wanted to focus on those people who saw this as an opportunity, who were very positive and optimistic, and how they changed adversity into opportunity.
Well, let's get into that. The adversity to which we refer, in this case, many of the people you talk to were veterans of the tech industry, but again, we can extrapolate this to just about anyone.
Yeah.
The layoff happens. What does a layoff mean? For someone who hasn't experienced it, when you get that notice, when somebody says, guess what, your whole division's been erased and you too, it's more than just a point where you say, okay, I have to find another job. There are deeper levels here. What does the layoff mean to the person being laid off?
Well, it can mean a lot of things. Anita already touched on it. It's a loss. First and foremost, it's a loss because it's a loss not only of your living at this point, but the connections that you have with people. It's a loss for a lot of people of their identity because they are the breadwinners, whether they're men or women. And if there's any long delay in terms of getting the next job, that starts to eat away at them. So that can be an issue. That's a big part of it. But at the same time, for some people, especially in high tech during the downturn, there had been so many layoffs. We're up to around
tens of thousands,
50
just in
or
Ottawa.
something like that of people being laid off at this point. And they're sitting there saying, am I going to be next? And that desk is empty, and that desk is empty, and that desk is empty, and their friends are gone. So a lot of people that we interviewed actually were much more concerned about people who hadn't gotten laid off because they had their own traumas, and people forget that. The one thing about being laid off for the people that we interviewed was that there was a relief in that I don't have to worry about that anymore. Now I have something else to worry about here, but I don't have to worry about that one. I don't have to sit there with that sword hanging over my head and saying, when is it going to be my turn?
The trauma to which you referred, though, and the word is well chosen, a layoff is not just a setback. It's not just a matter of losing job, identity, peer group, but there is a deep impact on self-esteem in most cases. You would agree?
Yes. And I think even when you are positive, you feel like you failed. There's a feeling of guilt, as if you've done something wrong. And, there's a bit of a stigma, whether it be from the way others look at you or the way you just feel others see you. And the first thing you have to do when you get in that situation is get over it.
Well, you know what? We'll get into that when we come back from the break, but you've been laid off, trauma, not a great staging base for finding a new career, but you guys know how, and that's what we're going to tell you about. We have Linda on the line, and we'll be getting to you after the break. Linda, the number is 728-1001 here on Talk Ottawa. We're talking about dealing with layoffs and bouncing back, and we will see you right after this. Some advice we call today on the streets of Ottawa having to do with what to do after you've been laid off from your job. How do you bounce back? Well, we have some ideas about how you might bounce back that come from, in fact, a book called Learn to Bounce. From a high-tech layoff to your ideal work. We're not solely concerned with high-tech, but we are concerned with some coping strategies and some management strategies for taking this chapter of your life and turning it into a positive. To help us with that end, we have the authors of the book, Anita, Caputo, and Wallace. We also have you on the line, Linda and Paul, queued up, and Linda will be with you in just a sec. But as we were going to break, we were talking about some of the emotions that accompany a layoff, the stigma, a feeling that you've done something wrong, which is ironic because in this town we have, literally tens of thousands of people who are laid off for reasons having to do with nothing but economics. But nonetheless, they do internalize this. So don't you start when you're looking for the next chapter from a fundamentally compromised staging platform? Aren't you weak at that moment? Isn't that the worst place to be when you're embarking on this adventure?
I think the worst place is a little bit later when you first go at it, you're optimistic, and you go for the job and you do all the things you need to do. Well, what happens if that doesn't materialize?
Yeah.
And so then the questions really start coming up. And the other question that comes up is not only what I've done something wrong, but what's the matter with me?
Right.
That I can't find a job, other people find a job, I can't find a job, what's the matter with me? Even if that's illogical, it's there, and it's that kind of thing that eats away at you.
And in the worst case scenario, what kind of an effect can that have on your subsequent job search?
Oh, well, it shows. I mean, one of the things I talk about when I train is that our thoughts are portrayed in our behavior.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking, why me, or you're thinking, oh, I'm just not going to get another job, then those negative thoughts are coming out in your behavior.
So no matter how much of a practiced salesperson you imagine yourself to be, if you haven't dealt with the feelings and relegated it into their proper place, it's going to get in your way when you're trying to find that next gig.
Absolutely, unless you're one tremendous actor.
In which case you'd probably be looking for work in acting.
That's
Well,
right.
that could be. The other thing about it is that the worst thing you can do is be desperate.
Yeah.
And as things go along, desperation is a possibility. But if you think about it, and one of the things I like to say, that desperation is not attractive in dating. It's certainly not attractive when you're looking for a job.
And finding a job is a bit of a courtship, isn't it? Between
Definitely.
the applicant and the company.
People see
And the
through
people
it.
on the other side are
Yeah.
looking for somebody they want to work with.
Yeah.
They want somebody who's energized, who's positive, who's and has obviously the things to contribute that they can do the job. But of all the people who could do the job, and the high-tech downturn was a great example of that, because there were thousands and thousands of people who could do the job. How do you pick the one you want?
Right.
And then it's personal factors. And confidence and passion and all of those things are extremely important to managers who are hiring.
I just want to add one thing, and I always say you have to believe in yourself first before others will believe in you.
And that must surely be one of the easiest things to say and the toughest things to do on this planet.
Absolutely.
So we'll have some good ideas about how exactly to go about it. But we have to get to Linda, who has been waiting patiently. Linda, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much for taking my call, James.
Delighted. Good to hear from you, Linda.
A Happy New Year to you.
And a Happy New Year to you as well.
Okay, yeah, I had a job for 20 years in the federal government, and I sort of left that for personal reasons, but then
Right.
I had to take care of my mom and did some volunteer work, so then I'm just trying to get back in the workforce, but in my 40s, I don't know what my skills are.
Well, that's, of course, a big one. As a matter of fact, whatever your skills are may, in fact, be meaningless by the time you try to re-enter the job force, especially with technology changing so fast. Is that part of what you're thinking about?
Yeah,
Well, Linda, I'll tell you what, we got a couple of people here who just might have a game plan for you.
thank you.
One of the things that I do, and I work a lot with people who are looking for work, is I'll ask them the question which they have difficulty with, and that is, what is it that makes you really good at what you do? And more importantly, what makes you really good at what you want to do next?
Right.
Because you may not be doing what you did last time, but you have transferable skills. So an important piece is to sit down and really take a look at the kinds of successes you've had. And there are different ways you can do that. You can do it yourself. You can talk to co-workers. You can talk to your previous boss if you have a decent relationship. You can look at your performance reviews if you've had performance reviews, and get people who are more objective to help you take a look at that. The problem is that, and people have difficulty with it, not because they're not capable. They are capable.
Yeah.
They're extremely capable, but they don't stop when they're working long enough to say, what am I doing and why am I good at it?
Well, let's pause there for a moment. Linda, are you still with us? Hello, Linda.
Yes?
Well, tell me something. Maybe you could address Lee directly on this. What did you do? What he was just talking about? Did you do this analysis of your skill set and
No, really, yeah, no, I didn't. I worked at the federal government at Revenue Canada.
right?
So we did tax returns, and I moved to different computer-based things and worked in the IT section. And
Well, why don't we have you and Lee actually have a chat about this? Lee, what